Hello all, a great afternoon, a warm welcome to all of you who are watching this session of Prelims Masterclass 2025 that we have actually launched as a special edition for the upcoming preliminary examination 2025. So to all of you who are watching this for the first time, I would like to introduce myself as Surya Bhaskar, and after the series of environment and ecology, I am dealing with this particular series concerning the schemes, the reports as well as indices, after which we will move on to discuss about the international organizations, the important regions in focus and so on. Okay, so as you actually know, as I already told you, this is our third lecture on schemes, and if you see the slide behind me, you know that there are different or the significant number of schemes that have been completed under these different ministries. Okay, so we have divided, or we have actually classified the schemes according to the ministry so that it will be easier for you to remember and recall. Okay, so that you have clarity for your in your preparation for the upcoming examination. So as a ritual, let us actually start off by seeing what are all the schemes that we had discussed under different ministries, moving on to which we will discuss what are the topics that we will be taking up for today's discussion. Okay, so let us quickly start our discussion on schemes. Okay, so as you know, we actually started with the schemes on Ministry of Agriculture. Okay, so why are we doing this exercise of recalling what we have done in the previous class is that we need to have that sense of completion, and we need to be very sure that we have completed significant number of topics for the examination. Okay, so this will boost your morale, and in upcoming classes you will actually follow it very diligently. We'll have one more class where we'll be discussing about reports as well as indices, global reports and indices, as well as India's reports and indices, which become extremely important. Okay, so first we actually took on the topic, that is Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. So let us occupy this portion of the board. So first we had started discussing the this is the National Mission on Natural Farming. So first one was on natural farming, and also we looked at what do you mean by this concept of natural farming and why is it important for India. All these we actually discussed over here, and we moved on to discuss the next topic, that is your Pradhan Mantri Kisan Mandhan Yojana. Okay, so Mandhan Yojana, this actually focuses on giving the security to the old age farmers, as well as trying to double the farmers income, or trying to give a sense of social security to the farmers. Okay, then moving on, we discussed about the digital agri mission. So how do we use our digital public infrastructure like Aadhaar, etc., in order to make it easier for the farmers, or make the life of farmers very easy through digitization. So this is the digital agri mission. Then we moved on to discuss about Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So this actually focuses on the insurance coverage that is given to the crops. Okay, so we discussed about one on natural farming. The second one is the Manthan Yojana, that is how do you give social security to the farmers. And moving on, we discussed about Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. This is the insurance coverage that you give to the farmers for the crops in with respect to that of the disasters, because of the climate, the pest attacks, etc. Okay, like droughts, famine, etc. Next, we moved on to discuss about the digital agriculture mission, and followed by that we also had the PM-KISAN scheme, which actually focused on improving the income of the farmers. And finally we had discussed about the Namo drone Didi. Okay, so here you actually provide the drone services in agriculture specifically for women. Okay, so these are the different schemes that we had discussed under Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Okay, so here Ministry of Agriculture is done. Then we moved on to the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, where we discussed about the SVAMITVA scheme. Okay, so SVAMITVA scheme, where this is nothing but the measurement, okay, the measurement of the land parcels using the innovative technology. So this was actually the SVAMITVA scheme under the Ministry of Panchayati Raj. And if you see under NITHI Aayog, which is India's think tank, we saw the National Innovation Mission. National Innovation Mission. Then we moved forward in order to discuss about the schemes under the Ministry of Education, where we discussed about the Pradhan Mantri Vidyalaxmi Scheme, which focuses on providing what, the scholarship to the to the students for pursuing their higher education. Then we moved on to see about the PM-USHA scheme. Okay, and finally we looked at the concept of one nation one subscription. So these are all the these are all the topics that we discussed under the Ministry of Education. Okay, then we moved on to the Ministry of Civil Aviation, where we discussed about one scheme that is known as UDAN scheme, that stands for Ude Desh Ka Naam Agrik. Okay, so this actually Nagrik, which stands for what, which aims at providing affordable flight, okay, or air travel in order to connect the underserved as well as the the unserved areas. So this is what is your UDAN scheme. And also we saw what are the incentives and what is the collaboration between the government and the airlines, what is the cap that is of 2,500 rupees, all that we discussed over here. And the first one was inaugurated in 2017 between Shimla as well as Delhi. Okay, so this is what we saw. Next we moved on to the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, where the first one we discussed about the Pradhan Mantri Van Bandhan Kalyan Yojana. Okay, in order to improve the life of the tribal community by enhanced development. Okay, so this or the holistic development, this is what we focused on, the Pradhan Mantri Van Bandhan Kalyan Yojana. And then we discussed about the Pradhan Mantri Jan Jatiya Unnat Abhiyan. Okay, so this also we discussed. Okay, then we moved on to the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, where we discussed very, very important schemes. That is, the first one, we saw the affordable housing scheme, that is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana 2.0, and we also saw the first version of it, that is the Awas Yojana 1.0, which actually came into existence in 2015 in order to provide the all-weather Pakka houses, where around 1.18 crore houses were actually sanctioned, out of which around 85 to 90 lakh houses were given to the beneficiaries. Okay, so we saw what is the eligibility criteria to be a beneficiary and what are the loan concessions, what is the subsidy which is actually given there, and under Awas Yojana, whether it is a centrally sponsored scheme with respect to the construction or it is a central sector scheme when it comes to the interest subsidy scheme, all that we discussed in this particular article. Then we moved on to discuss about the next one, that is the National Urban Livelihood Mission. That is, how are you skilling up or upskilling the people who are present in the urban regions, specifically in the middle income groups or the low income groups, and how are you making them market ready for being absorbed into the labor market or for employment. So this is what we discussed over here under National Urban Livelihood Mission. Then moving on, we also discussed about a concept of smart cities. So we discussed about the smart cities mission and what are the eligibility criteria for a city to be designated or to be given the smart city tag. Okay, so we actually saw that it has to use less of resources, but it has to come up with more of output. And also here, that particular community should be at the center of focus. Here technology should be a means and it should not be an end, right? So all these we saw. And there also has to be partnership, there has to be convergence, there has to be cooperative and competitive federalism. All those 6 different elements for a city to be called as a smart city we discussed over here. Okay, then anything else we left? Then we moved on to the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, where this we discussed a particular scheme called as the Jal Vahak scheme. Okay, so how do we expand, or you can say how do you enhance, how do you enhance the utilization of the inland waterways or the national waterways for the carriage of cargo? Okay, so currently there is so many million tons of cargo, that is 132. We are aiming to increase it by 500 million tons in order to decongest the road as well as the rail travel. So this is what we actually discussed in this article. And then anything else we have actually left? Yeah, new and renewable energy. What are the schemes we discussed under new and renewable energy? Anyone remembers here? We actually discussed two important schemes. One is PM-KUSUM scheme, where we are trying to integrate the renewable energy into what? Integrate the renewable energy into the irrigation practices that is used by the farmers. That is PM-KUSUM scheme. And after that, we discussed about the PM Surya Ghar. Okay, Surya Ghar Bijli Yojana. So here installation of rooftop solar, for which they are being given the incentives and additional production of electricity, you can sell it to the government and you will be monetized. Okay, so by this we are actually it is a win-win, okay, for both the consumer as well as for the government. Whoever is installing, they are going to get additional subsidy and you will be earning more also, where you will be reducing on what? Your electricity bills, etc. At the same time, there is going to be reduced dependence on the fossil fuels. Okay, so this is what we actually discussed under the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. So we have discussed all these important schemes in our previous two lectures, and now today we will actually start with the Ministry of Heavy Industries. So under Ministry of Heavy Industries, today we will actually be taking up important schemes. So what are the schemes that we will be discussing under Ministry of Heavy Industries is that, wait, let me just clean this board. Yeah. Under Ministry of Heavy Industries, we will be discussing about PM-E-Drive scheme. Okay, so what do you mean by E-Drive? It stands for Electronic Drive Revolution in Innovating or Innovative Vehicle Enhancement. So this is the first scheme that we'll be discussing about. So this PM-E-Drive scheme was actually, rooted on these, the FAME scheme. What do you mean by the FAME scheme? Rooted on the FAME scheme, that is nothing but the faster adoption as well as manufacture of the electronic vehicles. Okay, so this was under 2, that is FAME 1 actually came into existence in the year 2015. Okay, whereas FAME 2 came in 2019, and the extension of this is, that is the implementation arm was what? The PM drive scheme as well as the electric mobility promotion scheme, EMPS, etc. So we will be discussing about that. Okay, so the first scheme that we'll be discussing is what? Your PM E-Drive scheme. This was established by the government in order to faster adopt or adapt to the electric vehicles, okay, in order to reduce your emissions as well as the pollution or the global warming targets. Okay, so this is your PM E-Drive scheme. The second scheme we will be discussing about is your, or you can say, FAME India scheme. So this is what I told you, FAME India scheme. So this is nothing but faster adoption and manufacture of electric vehicles. Okay, so this is your FAME India scheme. This is done. And I forgot to tell you, we also dealt with Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, where we discussed about the SMILE initiative, where the support is given to the marginalized communities like the transgender or the children who are involved in the act of begging. So that is what is the SMILE initiative. So this is done. And next one is the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. So after the Ministry of Heavy Industries, we'll move to the petroleum and natural gas, where we will be discussing about the PM-Jeevan scheme. Jeevan scheme. So this scheme mainly aims at establishing the 2G biofuel refineries. So here it is important for us to understand what do you mean by the second generation biofuels. For that we need to know what is the difference between the first generation, second generation, third as well as the fourth generation biofuels. There it is necessary for us to understand what is the concept of ethanol blending. So we will see what is ethanol and what is the purpose of ethanol blending and what are its significance with respect to the economy okay, whether it is going to reduce the import bill of India with respect to crude oil, and whether it is going to result in employment generation, whether it is going environmentally, is it going to be significant in cutting down the emission, and and agriculturally what's going to be there, whether it is going to promote the circular economy of reusing the agro based food products that go as waste or food residues. All that we will discuss in this particular article, that is PM Jeevan. Okay, this is the particular topic. Then we will move on to the Ministry of Textiles, where we will be discussing about the mission on technical textiles. Mission on technical textiles. And then we discuss about PM Mitras. That is the second scheme we will be discussing about, PM Mitras. And then we will be discussing about the Samarth scheme. Okay, all these are related to textiles, and also 100% FDI or FDI through automatic route, where it actually enables the investors to hold 100% of ownership with respect to the textile sector in India. So all these things we'll be discussing over here. Then moving on to the Ministry of Science and Technology. In science and technology, it is majorly related to that of research and development as well as the innovation ecosystem. So we will be discussing about the PAIR scheme, that is partnership on accelerated on accelerated innovation and research. Okay, then the next scheme will be your NIDHI scheme. Let me write it here. It is your NIDHI scheme. This is nothing but it is your national initiative for developing and harnessing innovation. Okay, so this is your NIDHI initiative. So these are the two schemes where we will be discussing under Ministry of Science as well as Technology. Then we will move on to Ministry of Finance, where we will be discussing about PM Mudra Yojana, where the loans are actually provided to small enterprises. Okay, so what do you mean by Mudra? Whether it is a refinancing agency or it actually gives out direct loans to these small industries or the small entrepreneurs, all that we will see. This particular topic of refinancing as well as providing direct loans, that has already been asked with respect to your RRBs. Okay, that is your regional rural banks in your UPSC. It is a PYQ, so you need to know whether it is a refinancing structure or it provides direct loans. Okay, so here we'll be discussing about PM Mudra Yojana. And finally, we will be discussing about Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and under this Corporate Affairs there are different schemes that will be discussing. And here, Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, again Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, and this actually has a sub-component, that is the PM Matsya Kisan Samriddhi Shah Yojana. Okay, so Kisan Samriddhi Shah Yojana. So we'll be discussing about this particular topic. Do you understand? And finally, we'll be discussing certain schemes that are under Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Okay, do you understand? Now let us quickly move on to our discussion after seeing whether there are any kind of comments in the comment section. Just give me a minute. Okay, so let us quickly start. 1 minute, one more minute, please. Okay, so are we done with all the ministries? So today we will be, closing with the important schemes, and tomorrow we will be starting with important reports as well as the indices which are required for the exam. Okay, so corporate affairs also we will be discussing about PM internship scheme, then Jeevan Jyoti Yojana. Okay, then accident insurance scheme. So all those schemes we'll be discussing here. So overall, we will be winding up with the schemes of 17 different ministries. Okay. So now let's get started quickly. Yeah. So first one is Ministry of Heavy Industries. So as I told you, under heavy industries, we'll be discussing about two most important schemes. One is nothing but the PM-E-Drive scheme, and the next one is what? Is your FAME India mission. So from the name itself, you know, it is about promoting or adopting the electric vehicles. Okay. So this is what we'll be discussing under Ministry of Heavy Industries under these two schemes. Okay. Let's quickly move on. Okay, so PM E-Drive scheme. So recently the government has announced phase 2 of this PM E-Drive scheme in order to continue providing subsidies. Okay, so through this scheme, what happens if I am a person who wants to buy a three-wheeler, okay, for transportation of my cargo, and the three-wheeler is actually not fuel based, that is diesel or petrol, but it is electric vehicle, then what happens through the PM E-Drive scheme, I can get incentives from the government. That is, there will be a what to say, there will be some kind of a discount that is given to me during my purchase, okay, in order to motivate me to adopt the cleaner methods of technology, that is the electronic or the electric technology. Okay, so this is what it is. So the government has actually announced the phase 2 of this PM E-Drive scheme in order to support giving subsidies for the cargo electric three-wheelers. So what does PM E-Drive actually stand for? This actually stands for electronic drive. It's PM electronic drive revolution in innovating vehicle enhancement. Okay, so this actually stands for PM E-Drive. Okay, now let us actually see what are the different provisions under this particular scheme. Okay, so the E-Drive actually stands for the electric drive revolution in innovative vehicle enhancement. So what does it aim? Obviously to adopt, and India actually, our economy should adapt more of electric vehicles, and also for the electric vehicles to be charged, you need to develop the charging infrastructure. So this is the major aim. Okay, and this is actually an build up of the earlier scheme of FAME 1 as well as FAME 2, that is faster adoption and manufacturing of the electric as well as your hybrid vehicles. Okay, so that is what is your FAME 1 scheme that came up in 2015, and then it was actually followed by the FAME 2 scheme of 2019. So this is what it is. Okay, then it also encompasses the Electric Mobility Promotion Scheme, that is EMPS. This is also a scheme that has been adopted by the Indian government in order to promote the use of electric vehicles, and it came in 2024. So this was launched in order to accelerate the adoption of electric two-wheelers as well as three-wheelers. Okay, important. Now let us see what are the categories of the vehicles that actually will be given the incentives in order to purchase the electric vehicles. First one is two-wheelers, electric two-wheelers. So they will get incentives under the PM E-Drive scheme. Next one are the three-wheelers, which are electric, including the registered e-rickshaws as well as the e-carts and L5. L5 are nothing but electric three-wheelers. Okay. Next one is e-ambulances. E-ambulances, that is electric plug-in hybrid and strong hybrid ambulances. Electric ambulances will be there. Next one, e-trucks and any other kind of EV categories. Okay, so these are the categories of vehicles which are eligible for the demand incentive. That is, when I want to buy, I can go and I can actually get incentives on my purchase of the e-vehicle. Okay, so these are the classes or the categories of vehicles. Next one, why has been this particular scheme or the phase 2 of this scheme extended? One is to accelerate the EV adoption By offering the purchase incentives. I told you, right, when you're purchasing, you are getting some incentives. That is, you are given a particular vehicle for lesser price. Okay. Next one, to develop the charging infrastructure while promoting eco-friendly transportation. Why is there eco-friendly transportation? Because you're not using diesel or you're not using petroleum. Okay, which is actually what, these are non-renewable sources of energy. Okay, and also releases in a lot of vehicular emissions that releases the what to say, greenhouse gases like methane, carbon monoxide and other gases, and carbon dioxide also, which actually gets trapped by this particular atmosphere, thereby leading to increase in the temperature. So global warming, again what happens, there is melting of the glacier, sea level rise, and then the submergence of coastal areas. So all these things are done. So that is why this particular method or this particular scheme has actually been introduced. So nodal ministry is Ministry of Heavy Industries. Don't think it's environment, forest and climate change. This is heavy industries. Next, financial outlay is around 11,000 crores for the period of 2024-2026. What are the components? First one, subsidies are given and demand incentives are given. So here don't be too much worried about this number. It's just that when you're going to buy, what happens, incentives are given and subsidies are given by the government when you make a purchase of a e-vehicle. Next one, e-vouchers are given to the buyers, just as how you have these Amazon as well as Flipkart vouchers to get the offer. Similarly, they will receive the Aadhaar authenticated e-vouchers to avail the demand incentives. Okay. So this is what it is. Next one, it also has other features like electric ambulance deployment. So why has what does electricity or the electrically driven ambulance, how it is significant? Because it actually helps in greener mobility. Greener mobility. So environmentally friendly methods, lesser emission, that is one. And then also it does not use diesel or petrol engines. So what happens? There is less of noise pollution. Okay, less of noise pollution, and so easier transportation of patients. So this is why it actually encourages the electric ambulance deployment for e-friendly patient transportation. Moving forward, incentives for electric trucks. Okay, so here what happens is that those electric truck people, whoever has this particular scrapping certificate, that is already they possess a truck, they want to dispose this off, and in that place they want to buy a e-truck. Then what happens is that they'll actually have to get a probable or a valid or a legal scrapping certificate, that too by who? The authorized vehicle scrapping centers, which are approved by this Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. Okay, so this is very important. And finally, the development of the charging infrastructure. So around 2000 crores will be utilized for installing the public charging stations in the cities with high penetration of electric vehicles, and specifically among the selected highways. Okay, so this is what is your PM e-drive scheme. So any doubts so far? So how easily you just have to remember is that e-drive, it is electrical drive. You are going to do your electrical driving through what? Through innovative vehicle enhancement. How that is actually done? Okay, that is by giving you various incentives as well as subsidies in enhancing or promoting or encouraging you to adopt to the greener technologies, and that actually comes with various provisions. It was built up on the FAME 1 and the 2 scheme that has already been introduced by the government in 2015 as well as 2019. Okay, so this is about your scheme, that is your PM e-drive. Now let us actually move forward to understand the next scheme, that is your FAME India scheme. So what do you mean by FAME? FAME stands for faster adoption and manufacturing. Faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicles. What do you mean by hybrid vehicles? Where you actually use both electric batteries and you use your fuel. Do you understand this? So this is your FAME India scheme. So here if you see, as of 31st October 2024, approximately 16 lakh electric vehicles have been incentivized under this particular FAME India scheme or the FAME 2 scheme. Okay. So now let us understand what do you mean by the FAME India scheme. As I told you, this actually stands for faster adoption and manufacturing of the hybrid and the electric vehicles in India, and this came into existence when? In the year 2015 by the Ministry of Heavy Industries. Very important point to remember. This is also to promote the adoption of what? The electric as well as the hybrid vehicles in India. So this is what it is, and then it operates under the National Electric Mobility Mission Plan. National Electric Mobility Mission Plan, and this was adopted in the year 2013 by the government, and it had various objectives in mind. First one is to promote the use of electric vehicles. So electric vehicles should be promoted. And next one, because of this what happens? Your emissions have to be reduced. Okay. And next one, around 6 to 7 million electric vehicles should be on India's roads by the year 2020. So this is what was your National Electric Mission Plan. So what are the major four objectives of the National Electric Plan is that first you need to promote the e-vehicles or the hybrid vehicles in the economy, and then you actually have to cut short the emissions because that arises out of the other kind of vehicles that you use, that is the renewable non-renewable energy based vehicles. Next one, you have to promote the manufacturing of the electric vehicles as well as the hybrid vehicles indigenously, and then there have to be around 6 to 7 million electric vehicles on India's roads by the year 2020. So this was the target that was actually set up by this particular National Electric Mobility Mission. So this basically aims to reduce the vehicular emissions and also decrease India's dependence on the fossil fuels. Okay. So moving forward, we will see what are the phases of the scheme. The phase 1 of the scheme, I told you, it actually spans between 2015 to 19, next from 19 to 2024-2025 period, and then the extension of which is the PM-E drive, the EMPS and so on. So this focused on four key areas. So what are the key areas of FAME 1 is that demand creation. First you create demand for your electric vehicles, then there has to be a proper technology platforms. Once that is approved, then immediately start your pilot projects, and for that and after that what you have to do for more demand, it has to be, the infrastructure has to be very sophisticated, it has to be easier for the people who have e-vehicles, right? So you have to create the spaces where they can charge the vehicle. So development of the charging infrastructure. So during this phase, approximately 2.78 lakh vehicles, that is electric vehicles, were supported. Okay, and this was through an incentive of 343 crores. Again, not important. And again, 465 buses were sanctioned in various cities as well as 1 minute. Yeah, various cities and states. Now moving forward, the phase 2. As I already told you, it is from a period of 2019 to 2024. So here what happens, they had a budgetary allocation or outlay of around 10,000 crores, and earlier it was increased to 11,500 crores. Okay. So here they basically focused on electrification of all the public as well as the shared transportation like buses, etc. And then it aims to support 7,090 e-buses, and then different 5 lakh of e-3-wheelers, then electronic 4-wheeler passenger cars, as well as around 10 lakh 2-wheelers. Okay. It also focused on what? The charging infrastructure, very important, and they wanted to establish around 3,000 charging infrastructure, charging stations in the country. So this is the second phase of this particular FAME scheme. Now let's move forward to see the key features of the scheme. Obviously, demand incentives are provided. That is, whenever you plan to buy an e-vehicle, what happens upfront? Okay, you actually get your incentives. So whoever are the buyers of the electric vehicles, they will actually be what? Their charges will be reduced on the initial purchase cost. Okay, so this is what it is. Thereby, it will encourage more and more people to adopt or switch towards the electric vehicles. Next one, charging infrastructure. So of course, this will actually enable widespread as well as accessible charging network across different cities. Okay, next one, focus on public transport. So this basically prioritizes the electrification of the shared as well as the public transport, okay, in order to maximize the environmental benefits, because only if you have more number of private vehicles, there will be more congestion, there will be lot of pollution, emission, etc. Whereas if this is electrically driven, a best example is Singapore. Okay, so where there is minimalistic use of the private transport, where they actually resort to the public transport only. So this is what. Next one, goods and service tax reduction. So earlier, the GST which was levied on the electric vehicles was 12%, and also on the charging infrastructure was around 12 or 8%, but now it has been reduced significantly to around 5%. Okay, so from 12% to 5%, and charging infrastructure to 18% to 5%. So this has actually made it more affordable also. Next one, in addition to that, the MORTH, that is the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, has exempted all the e-operating vehicles from permit requirements. What do you mean by permit requirements? If you have a truck or a lorry, or if you have auto, taxis, etc., all these must actually have permits in order to operate on the roads. Okay, for example, the trucks. So they must actually have the goods carriage permit. And for example, you have the autos and you have the buses. So they must have level carriage permits. And autos should have contract carriage permits. But if you have e-vehicles, then these kind of permits are not required. Okay, so this is one of the characteristic feature of this particular scheme. Now let us see what are the other government initiatives that actually aim at the faster adoption of, or India's transition to what? The electric vehicles, okay, or the e-technology. First one is PM E-Drive. I told you, right? So this was adopted in 2024 with a financial outlay of around 10,900 crores. So here there is adoption of what? The electric vehicles, and also essential charging infrastructure is created. Next one, there is production linked incentive. So if there are any manufacturing units that are manufacturing these advanced chemistry cells that are nothing but the batteries which are used for your e-vehicles, then what happens? They are given some incentive under the Ministry of Heavy Industries, and it has an approved budget outlay of around 18,000 crores. So this actually aims to establish a competitive market for the advanced chemistry cells, okay, and the manufacturing setups which are used for manufacturing these cells. The next one, electric mobility promotion scheme. I told you, the EMPA scheme. So this has been effective since 2024, and it has a budget outlay of how much? 500 crores. This is also aiming at what? Adoption of the electric vehicles by providing financial incentives to the consumers. The next one is the National Electric Mobility Plan. We actually discussed this is somewhere around 2022, and 2012, adopted in 2013. So aims at increasing the national fuel security. So what do you mean by national fuel security? This actually has to enable, the citizens to have a safe, affordable, clean and sustainable supply of fuel. Okay, so that is the meaning of what? Your national fuel security, through the promotion of hybrid and electric vehicles, and also it targets 30% of EV penetration in India by the year 2030. Okay, so these are the other government initiatives that focus on the adoption of EV. Next one, let's move on to the Ministry of Science as well as Technology. So let's see what are the different schemes that are actually involved over here. So let's actually start with this. Ministry of Science and Technology, we'll be discussing about the PAIR scheme. This actually stands for the Partnership for Accelerated Innovation and Research. And next one is your NIDHI scheme. What does NIDHI stand for? This stands for National Initiative for Developing and Harnessing Innovation. Okay, so in the field of science and technology, there actually has to be sufficient innovation as well as room for research and development. Okay, so that is why we have these two schemes that have come up. Okay, now let us move forward to understand what is the first scheme. First one is the PAIR program. So what is the PAIR program? So recently the Anusandhan National Research Foundation, this actually is an agency which came in 2023, which was set up by the government in order to enhance the research, development and innovation ecosystem or the landscape in India. Okay, so this is the Anusandhan National Research Foundation. We will be looking at what is this organization, whether it's a statutory body, what's the composition, what is the function of the executive council, how is the funding which is done to this particular Anusandhan National Research Foundation, all that we will see. So this has actually announced the launch of what? The PAIR program, and PAIR stands for Partnerships for Accelerated Innovation as well as Research. Okay, now let's move forward in order to understand about this particular initiative. So as I told you, this is actually a flagship initiative which has been brought about by the ANRF, that is the Anusandhan National Research Foundation. Okay, for innovation in what? The universities, Indian universities for research, development as well as innovation. Okay, and so it actually aims to foster collaborative networks. So how do you develop? See, don't focus too much on these words. What do you mean by pair program? There has to be pairing. What is the pairing? How is the pairing done? By the hub and spoke model. So what do you mean by hub and spoke model? There is a central entity which actually has all the sufficient, or it has sophisticated infrastructure as well as resources. In this case, what happens? There is actually a unit which actually has enough innovative as well as scientific development infrastructure over here, and so this is called as the hub. Okay, and under this hub there will be different entities, smaller entities which do not have enough resources, and these are called as spokes. Okay, so under this initiative we will have one hub as well as 7 spokes. So this is what is the hub and spoke model. So there has to be a collaborative network through the hub and spoke model of mentorship, and this actually aligns with the objectives of the National Education Policy of 2020, because National Education Policy also says that education should not be any more rote learning, but you need to instill the innovation as well as research and development. That's how it said that you need to use artificial intelligence also effectively into this particular domain. Okay, so this is what is NEP 2020. Now let's move forward in understanding what are the different provisions under this particular scheme. So if you're not able to see it, 1 minute, let me try to zoom it for you. Yes, so key objectives of this particular PAIR scheme. First one, there has to be scientific innovation in all the emerging institutions. Okay, and there has to be proper mentorship also from the top ranking institution. That is why top ranking institution or institutions of eminence will be your hub, and the other institutions will be your spoke. So this is what it is. And through mentorship, there has to be a collaborative network that has to be built for innovation. So this is the basic thing. Next one, enhance the quality of research and productivity through collaborative networks. We saw this. And also there has to be research infrastructure, not only the conventional one but also the advanced one, okay, and the capabilities in the nascent institutions, that is the just born or the emerging institutions. Next one, promote the internationally competitive research as well as significant outcomes. So you need to have you need to keep India also on a level playing field, competing with the global institutions. So all these are also the provisions, or you can say the objectives of the scheme. And the final one is facilitate the infusion of best practices. So whatever are the best practices that are followed, please bring them over here so that you have a research driven culture. Okay, so these are the different provisions under the scheme. Now let's move forward to see what are the provisions in detail. First one, mentorship driven hub and spoke model. I told you, so top tier institutions, that is specifically in the NIRF ranking, National Institution Research Framework, under the ranking framework, under this the NIRF actually ranks the higher educational institutions based on certain parameters. Okay, so the top 25 NIRF ranking institutions as well as institution of importance will be the what? Will be the top, or you can say it will be the hub. And then what happens? What does it say? Top 25 ranked institutions and institutes of national importance within the top 50. Okay, so these will actually be the hub. And then the spokes will be central and the state public universities, then the selected National Institute of Technologies as well as the IITs. Okay, then there has to be collaborative network. I told you, right? So there will be one hub and there will be 7 spokes. One hub and 7 spokes in order to have a collaborative network. And then there has to be faculty teams which are actually multi-departmental, okay, from the spoke institutions. And then there has to be regional diversity among the participants. This will also be ensured. And finally, there will be phased implementation, okay. First, only the top tier institutions will be involved and the selected public universities will be involved, and then the eligibility will expand to include the other universities also, and the institutions in the subsequent phases will be added. Okay, so this is what is your pair initiative, which has been brought about by the Anusandhan National Research Foundation, that was actually established by what? 1 minute, let me just zoom this. Established by the ANRF Act of 2023. So I hope this is visible. Okay, yeah. Let's continue seeing what is on the board. So it is a statutory body, important and easy to remember, ANRF ranking only, Act of 2023. So this is actually inspired by the US National Science Foundation, that is the NSF, and the aim is what? To grow and to promote the research and development, and also to focus a culture of research and innovation throughout India's universities, colleges, research institutions, etc. What are the key functions? This actually acts as an apex body. Why? In order to provide high level, it has to give a proper strategic direction how to carry on your research development and innovation. And this is in line with the recommendations of the NEP, that is the National Education Policy of 2020. And this subsumes the SERB. Very, very important. Subsumes SERB, that is nothing but the Science and Engineering Research Board, okay, which was earlier established by the Act of the Parliament in 2008, and facilitates collaborations between industries, the academia, the government departments as well as research institutions. If you see the organizational structure, it has a governing body which provides the direction to ANRF and monitor the implementation. Okay, so the board is headed by whom? The Prime Minister, okay, Prime Minister, and there are other board ministers who actually act as vice presidents, that is Minister of Education, Ministry of Science and Technology. All of them are also involved over here. If you see other members of the board, you have Union Minister of Science, you have Education, right? They act as vice president, and the principal scientific advisor as member secretary, and then you have secretaries to departments of science and technology, biotechnology, and scientific and industrial research. It has an executive council where this mainly focuses on implementation of this particular pair program. Okay, and also the principal scientific advisor is the chairperson of the council. And finally, if you see how are the funds for the ANRF is that the foundation is financed primarily by the grants and the loans that the central government gives for the Ministry of Science and Technology, where for research and development these funds are actually given. The next one, it has a funding target of around 50,000 crores. Okay, apart from this, it also has a target of 50,000 crores from the period of 2023 to 2028. Okay, so this is all about your ANRF. So now let's quickly move to the next scheme. This is also one of the schemes of what the Ministry of Science and Technology. This is nothing but the NIDHI scheme, that is the National Initiative for what? Developing and harnessing innovation. So that is what is your NIDHI, Initiative for Development and Harnessing Innovation. Okay, so far it has supported over so many tech products, so many patents, so many entrepreneurs, etc. So it has actually it had its inception in the year 2016, and up until a decade, that is 2025, it has given a lot of support to many of the techs, patents as well as entrepreneurs. And now we will be discussing about this particular scheme. Okay, now about the National Initiative for Developing as well as Harnessing Innovation. It was launched in the year 2016. It is an umbrella program which was conceived and developed by the Department of Science and Technology. Okay, so here it has different components. Okay, so you have NIDHI, technology business incubators. Okay, and then you have the NIDHI Prayas, where it actually encourages the young entrepreneurs to come up with ideas as well as to build the prototypes. And then you have the NIDHI ITBI. This is nothing but it is your innovative technology business incubators. And then it has different other components also. We will actually discuss in the coming slides. Let's see. So what is the objective? In order to nurture the startups, okay? So in order to nurture the startups through scouting, that is providing them the necessary ideas for innovation. Okay, and supporting and scaling them for innovations. This is why, because you need to build an ecosystem, or an entrepreneurial ecosystem, okay, or a business environment where innovation is actually there as a driving mechanism. Okay, so this is actually there in order to boost the Indian economy, in order to generate wealth as well as employment. So this is the major aim of this scheme. And the funding is actually done by the National Science and Technology Entrepreneurship Development Board, and the key stakeholders are various departments are there and industries of the central government, the research institutions, the scientific institutions, the venture capitalists who crowd funds and they invest. So all these are also there with the involvement of private sector. Now moving forward, I told you that there are different components of this particular NIDHI scheme, right? One of which is the NIDHI ITBI. This is nothing but Innovative Technology Business Incubator. Incubator is what? When sometimes you see, right, when a baby is born and it actually lacks some of the nutrients or the strength to breathe in oxygen and leave out carbon dioxide, when it has respiratory issues, or when it is premature, when it's born at a premature month. Okay, what happens? They are kept in an incubator, right, in order to receive the life support. So similarly, these are incubators which actually provide innovations and ideas for the early starting startups or the newly starting startups. Okay, so this is your NIDHI ITBI, that is the Innovative Technology Business Incubators. Then you have the technological business incubators. Then also you have centers of excellence under NIDHI, which will actually be established, that is the COE. And then you have the entrepreneurial incubators which are provided. Next you have the Prayas, which actually make them to develop or come up with new innovations as well as build a prototype or a model. Then the next one is SSP, and next one is your accelerator. We will see everything one by one. So the prayas, so whoever are the aspiring entrepreneurs, it actually motivates them in order to bring the ideas as well as development of a prototype or a model. Next one, EIR, that is entrepreneur in residence. So this actually gives what? A motivation or some kind of support for the transitioning into an entrepreneurship. Okay, so a support system for you to actually start and then move into entrepreneurship. Next one, the technology business incubator, TBI, I told you. So if there is any kind of innovation, convert that into a startup. So that is called as your technology business innovator incubator. Next one, inclusive technology incubator. So this is actually to include a diverse number of companies or entrepreneurship. Next one is accelerator. This is actually to accelerate the innovative growth through mentorship and resource access. And finally, you have the seed support system, that is provide the seeding. Okay, so this is for your, the investments that actually takes place at the earlier stage in order to start, in order to help the startups. Okay, next one is NIDHI COE, where the centers of excellence are there, which actually provides advanced infrastructure for your innovation. Okay, so these are the different components of this particular NIDHI scheme. Okay, so we've looked at two important schemes. First, we started with the Department of Heavy Industries, where we discussed about the electric vehicles, where the FAME scheme had to be, put at first or discussed at first, because this was the one which actually came up in 2015, and the phase 2 of it, that is FAME 2, came up in 2019 and went on to 2024, where the second phase of this particular FAME 2 has been extended to the PM-E-Drive scheme. That is what we actually saw, the electronic drive, what to say, revolution in innovating the vehicle advancement, that is the PM drive scheme. All this is for adoption of what? Your electric vehicles. Then we move forward to the next department, that is what? The Ministry of Science and Technology, where we mainly focused on the schemes on innovation and creating a research and development ecosystem in India, which is done majorly through two schemes. One is actually your NIDHI scheme, where it is a national initiative for developing and harnessing innovation. Okay, so that is why you have the incubators, and then your incentives are given, a major push is given to the upcoming startups or the entrepreneurship. That is actually your NIDHI scheme. And the next one is your pair program. This is what, where you have, the ANRF, that actually came up with this pair program, where there has to be accelerated partnership for what? Research as well as innovation. Okay, so this is what it is, and that was inspired from the recommendations of the National Education Policy of 2020. So we have actually done with this particular scheme as well. Now we will move to another interesting Ministry of Finance. So Ministry of Finance is majorly related with respect to producing loans to these small enterprises or small companies, or to the farmers, etc., right? Or people who are actually involved in tailoring, self-help groups, women, etc. So here we will be discussing about the PM Mudra Yojana. Okay, so we will be discussing about what is the scheme, when did it come into existence, and whether it is a restructuring mechanism or whether it provides direct loans to the beneficiary. So all this we will be discussing over here. Okay, so recently NITI Aayog, that is the think tank of India, has actually released an impact assessment report on the performance of Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana. Okay, so Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana is actually our topic of focus. Now let's move forward and see, when did this Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana come into existence. So this was brought about by the Ministry of Finance in the year 2015. For what purpose? In order to give away loans to small businesses as well as small enterprises which are carrying out different activities, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is services, whether it is trading, or even allied activities of agriculture. Okay, if it is dairying, if it is actually honey keeping, all that, it is actually for providing the finances to all these businesses, this particular Mudra Yojana came forward. Okay, so the aim is financing the small businesses and enterprises involved in manufacturing, trading, and what to say, services including those or allied activities of agriculture such as poultry. Then you have your dairy, that is a milk production, and then you have the beekeeping, etc., by providing the term loan or a working capital. What do you mean by term loan? This is providing a fixed amount of money for a particular purpose. Okay, so fixed amount of money for a particular purpose. For example, buying a machinery. Okay, and the loans are actually provided up to 10 lakh in order to whom? To non-corporates, to non-farm, as well as small, as well as the micro enterprises. Do you guys have any doubts so far? You can just ask me so that we can move forward. Any doubts so far? In any of the schemes, you can ask me so that we can move forward. Okay, so nothing so far, so let us actually continue. Okay, so this actually aims to provide loan of up to what? 10 lakh. So it can either be a term loan or a working capital. Term loan is for specific purpose. Okay, here I forgot to tell. Working capital is nothing but for your day-to-day purposes, for your daily needs. For example, you want to buy some raw material. Okay, so or you want to provide wages or provide the salary, pay the salary. For all these things, you need to buy some inputs. For all those purposes, we actually we call it as the working capital. So up to 10 lakh of loan is provided to all these beneficiaries, that is non-corporate, non-farm, small and micro enterprises. Okay, now let's move forward and see what are the different types of mudra loans. Okay, so there are three types of mudra loans. One is actually Shishu, next one is your Kishore, and next one is your Tarun. So this actually depends, or what to say, this is the value or the bracket of the loans that is actually given for different purposes. So three types of loans are given, that is, one is Shishu, where the loan of up to rupees 50,000 is provided under Shishu. Okay, so this is actually given for basically what? For startups, and then it is given for the first time entrepreneurs. Okay, so the next one is Kishore. So this is around a loan of up to, from 50,000 to around 5 lakhs is actually given. Okay, so next one is Kishore, and the final one is Tarun. So as I told you, this is given for startups and the what to say, the new businesses. But Kishore is actually up to 5 lakh is for what? The already existing businesses. And finally you have Tarun, where this is given for business expansion. Okay, business expansion of up to 5 lakh to 10 lakh is actually given. Okay, so if you see this particular diagram, you can see the loans are classified into Shishu, Kishore and Tarun, where the loans up to 50,000 is given for startups and first time companies. Next one for the existing businesses from 50,000 to 5 lakh, and 5 lakh to 10 lakh for businessmen, which is actually which is required for the expansion of the businesses. So who are the eligible applicants? Any Indian citizen. Okay, so any Indian citizen, which actually includes a woman, or if you have ownership over some kind of a small business or a land or any idea, so a proprietary concern, partnership firm, when two people come together, or the private limited company or any other entity who is eligible to avail a loan and has a business plan for income generating activity. You should not simply buy the loan saying that no, I might use it later. If you have any kind of a business idea that is going to fetch you some kind of financial gains or economic activity, that is when you will avail these kind of loans, depending upon whether you are an already existing business or a first timer, or you want to expand your business under Shishu, Kishore as well as Tarun. Next one, about this particular Mudra Yojana. So what is Mudra? This stands for micro units development, small units development. For example, you have a tailoring unit or you have a poultry shop. Okay, so you want to expand that. So those micro units for the development as well as a for refinancing them, this particular agency was there. So that is called as Mudra. It stands for Micro Unit Development and Refinance Agency Limited. It is a refinance agency. What does that mean? If I'm a beneficiary, if I'm a farmer, or if I want to establish a tailoring unit in my area, I cannot go and directly borrow loans from Mudra agency. Okay. Here, Mudra acts only as a refinancing agency. That is, it gives money to the banks. It gives money to the non-banking financial corporations, okay, NBFCs and other banks and other financial institutions, and they give out loans for all these small purposes, okay. And this is responsible for refinancing all the last mile financiers. How? I mean, such as the non-banking financial companies, the microfinance institutions, the societies, trusts, etc. They actually operate on this method. Next one, the refinancing agency also partners with the state or the regional level financial intermediaries, and it provides the finance to last mile financiers of small as well as micro business enterprises. Okay, so this is what is about the Mudra. And let's see the target clients. So who are the target clients it actually aims to provide loans is? First one, it is the non-corporate. 1 minute. Okay. The first one is the non-corporate small business segment. This actually comprises of people who have ownership or the partnership firms, that run as very small manufacturing units or service sector units. The next one, shopkeepers, okay, whether or you can say fruits as well as vegetable vendors, truck operators, servicing, or you can say food servicing units, the repair shops, the machine operators, all these are also over there, okay. Even your food processors, or whether you are an artisan, okay, all these people who are in the urban and the rural areas can gain. How questions will be asked? Only the people who are, that is food service providers from the rural areas are eligible for Mudra loans. No, in the urban and the rural areas, and the loan extended by all the public sector banks such as the PSU banks, the RRBs, the small finance banks, private sector banks, all produce, okay. Then the foreign banks, microfinance institutions, and the non-banking financial companies, all these actually provide you these Mudra loans, okay. So this is your Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, okay. So let us actually see what are the key features. Is it visible? Yeah. So the loan proposal should be for setting up a new industry or a new business, or for upgrading the already existing micro business enterprise, right? So when you actually propose to set up, then what? You go and ask for a loan, and then banks under this one will not require any kind of collateral. Usually when you go abroad for studies, or you want a huge amount of money, usually banks ask for a collateral in terms of property, gold, etc. That is, your already existing asset must be furnished, right? But here, banks don't ask for any collateral security for loan up to 10 lakhs, okay, which is extended to the micro and the small units. Next one, applicants should not be any kind of defaulter. Your financial, this one should be very clean, okay, records. So, should not be a defaulter to any bank or a financial institution. Then, the credit guarantee fund for micro units was created. So obviously they have to get a proper guaranteed fund for the micro units. This was also established under PMMY. The next one, no subsidy for loan given under PMMY. Okay, so when I'm giving you a loan, there is no subsidy that I give you on the interest you have to pay. However, if what happens, the loan proposal is linked to some government scheme. For example, I want to set up a dairying unit, okay, but already government is actually giving me subsidy, okay. So when the government, or you can say when my requirement is already attached with that of the subsidy that is given by the government, then that cannot be stopped, okay. So it will be eligible under PM Mudra Yojana also. Next one, life insurance is not mandatory. So whoever is taking the loan, it does not necessarily mean that you need to have the life insurance. And finally, interest rates are deregulated. That is, there is no uniform interest rates, and whatever is rational shall be fixed by the respective banks, but that also should be as per, it has to be rational as per the mandate that is given by the Reserve Bank of India. Okay, so the uniform interest rates are not there, however the bank rates actually have to be very, very rational. So this is what are the, these are the key features of the Mudra Yojana. Now let's move forward to understand the next scheme, that is the, is it visible? I think it has to be visible. Okay, let me write in this color over here. So we'll be discussing about the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Kisan Samriddhi Sa Yojana. So let us discuss about this sub scheme, which actually falls under the parent scheme of Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Okay, so now let us discuss about this particular scheme, whether it is a central sector scheme or it's a centrally sponsored scheme. All this we will see. Okay, so let us actually take a 1 minute break. Let us have some water and we will come back and continue this particular session. So the next topic is what? Your Pradhan Mantri Matsya Kisan Samriddhi Yojana. We will take a 1 minute break and we will come back. Second, I have this water. Any doubts so far? You people can actually ask, and the PPTs of the respective classes will be provided to you guys, and you can download it on our Narayana IAS Academy app. And there is also a separate website, that is the Narayana Navigator, narayanaNavigator.com, where you can, that is our official website, and you can go and download the current affairs materials, that is monthly as well as yearly for the upcoming exams. And we also have the relevant content which is actually fed there as well. Okay, so now let us continue with the next scheme. This is nothing but the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Kisan Samriddhi Yojana. Okay, so let's continue. The central government has recently approved this particular scheme, which is actually a sub scheme of Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Okay, now let's move forward in order to understand what is this scheme. So this is actually a central sector scheme. I hope you guys understand the difference between a centrally sponsored scheme and a central sector scheme, where the funding is entirely provided by the central government. So central sector sub scheme under the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. The total outlay for this particular scheme is around 6,000 crores, where public finance is 50% and you have the private sector contribution 50%. Okay, so 3,000 and 3,000 crores which are given by the public and the private, and then the implementation period is from the period of 2023 to the period of 2027. Okay, now let's move forward in understanding the objectives of this particular scheme. Okay, so this is something related to fisheries, this is something related to aquaculture. See, whatever are the lines that are exactly provided here, don't expect these lines to come in your exams directly. UPSC has now become all about your application. Okay, so use your mind over there and even very simple sentences can be asked. Don't think it will actually, that is UPSC will ask you only very complicated questions, okay? So even simple questions can be asked, and it is more of a common sense application over there, except in subjects like polity, or you have some concepts of economy, those will be direct. But in schemes and all certain provisions, it's not possible to cover all the provisions, right? So in that case, you need to just apply. For example, in under this Yojana, if they ask, it actually enables the creation of jobs. Of course, fisheries, aquaculture, and when you're incentivizing people to adopt and to get into this aquaculture, obviously it is going to create a lot of jobs and livelihoods, right? So you have to say job creation and efficiency improvement in the fishery value chain, starting from the production till the processing as well as exports. There's going to be a lot of employment generation over there. Similarly, if they ask about any other provision like one time incentives is given for aquaculture insurance or not, yes, insurance is very important because there can be diseases and other kind of catastrophes which are there, and hence the aquaculture, the fish farmers have to be prepared for that. For that they need to have insurance, okay? So first one is sector formalization. So here all the fishers as well as the fish farmers have to self-register themselves on a digital platform. So this is what it is. Self-registration should be there. Second one is the financial access. So there has to be access to finances to institutions, okay? To what? Micro and small enterprises, okay? So aquaculture also comes under fisheries and aquaculture, animal husbandry, all these are micro and small enterprises. Next one, insurance incentive. So one time incentive is given for people to insure the what? Aquaculture. Okay, next one is value chain efficiency, where there is creation of job as well as efficiency improvements in the fisheries value chain. Okay, so these are the objectives of your Pradhan Mantri Kisan Yojana, okay, or Kisan Samriddhi Matsya Yojana. Next one, let's see the beneficiaries. So obviously all the fishers and people or farmers involved in aquaculture, then fish workers, vendors, and the entities which are directly involved in any kind of supply, export, import chains, then they are also involved. Next one includes micro and small enterprises. It also includes your the self-help groups as well as the fishing producer, fishers producer, like the farmer producing organizations. You have fishers producing organizations also, and startups in this sector. And key components are digital platform. So it has a national fishery register platform where I told you all of them involved in fisheries and aquaculture have to self-register themselves. So this is number one. Next one, there is insurance and quality assurance, that is promote aquaculture insurance and quality assurance for the fish product. And finally the project management, that is they have to focus on efficient management, monitoring as well as report. Okay, so these are the key provisions of the scheme. And also, what is the significance? It is going to provide a lot of employment, okay? So it is expected to create almost 2 lakh jobs, okay? Here there will be, out of the 2 lakh jobs, around 75,000 positions will be for women. So efficiency and safety. So this is going to improve the value chain efficiency, because now you have the insurance that is also given in case of any kind of danger. So more and more people will be coming here. So the value chain efficiency will increase, and thereby the production will also be safe because it's insured, as well as the quality also goes high. Next one, there will be sustainability. So when you are using all the aquaculture methods, there have to be environmental sustainability safeguards that have to be taken during your breeding season. And moving forward, ease of doing business. So here I told you there is insurance that is actually given, there is motivation for you, there is loan actually given to you people. Then what happens? There is going to be self-registering is over there. So this ensures the ease of doing business as well as increases the transparency in this particular sector. Okay, so this is actually the significance of the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Kisan Samriddhi Shah Yojana. Now let's move forward and move to the next important discussion, that is what? The Ministry of Petroleum as well as Natural Gas Here we will be discussing about the concept of ethanol blending, and also what are the different generations of biofuel. Okay, the first generation biofuel, which actually comes majorly from the food sources or any kind of agriculture residues like bagasse, etc. And then you have the second generation biofuels, which comes from the non-food sources like wood, etc. And then we have the third generation, which comes from the algae as well as other kind of organisms. And then also we have the fourth generation. So we will actually look into different types of what to say generation, okay, of biofuels. So this is nothing but your PM-Jeevan mission. Let's actually see what is this. So moving forward, here we see that the Union Cabinet has recently approved certain kind of modifications to the Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Yojana. So it is important for us to understand what is this Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Yojana. Okay, so let's get started. So the background is that don't look into the board. So we actually have the ethanol blending program, right? So what do you mean by ethanol blending program? There was too much menace of the greenhouse gases, the vehicular emissions, and the pollution was extremely high, because we were to a greater extent dependent on the crude oil imports, okay, from the other countries. And the crude oil imports, obviously it actually has too much of the obnoxious gases as well as the pollutants, which was resulting in global warming, etc. So India actually decided for to a concept of ethanol blending. What do you mean by ethanol? It is nothing but the ethyl alcohol, okay. So that is actually blended with petrol to some extent in order to reduce the amount of this greenhouse gas emission into the atmosphere, like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, methane, etc. Okay, so we actually set targets of 10%, after which we actually moved to 20% by 2025. All those targets were actually set, but then there were gaps, okay. So let us actually see what are the what do you mean by the background. So the ethanol blending program was actually initiated in the year 2003, so that you blend some quantity of ethanol with that of petrol, so that you actually address the environmental issues that are coming out. At the same time, the farm residues or the agricultural residues are taken from the farmers, okay. So you are doubling their income, or you are adding to their financial security as well, and we are at the same time reducing the import of crude oil by India. So by this, what happens? You are actually environmentally also having a significance by reducing the amount of pollution. Economically also, you are causing a boon to the farmers by getting their residues in order to produce the ethanol. And the next process is what? You are also reducing the import bill of India. So these were the reasons why this ethanol blending program came into existence, okay. So the target initially was to achieve 10% ethanol blending, which is 10% of ethanol will be there and 90% of petrol will be there, and this will be used as a fuel. So 20% means 20% of ethanol and 80% of petrol will be there. So 10% was there and it had to be achieved by 2022. But despite this, what happens? The production of ethanol fell short, okay, of actual demand. Next, to bridge this particular ethanol supply gap, what happened is that the Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Yojana was launched. In order, when did this come into existence? This came into existence in 2019. In order to utilize an alternate source. What is the alternate source? The second generation ethanol, okay, because first generation ethanol is made from food sources, okay. So if we keep on using food sources, what happens? It's going to result in the shortage, okay. So now they said it's high time we move to second generation ethanol, where this biofuel is generated by through what? The major source as the non-food items like wood, etc. Okay, wood, etc. Okay, so this is what it is, or any other kind of waste. So this is what is the background of ethanol blending program of India. Now let us see the major objective of this PM Jeevan mission. In order to set up a commercial and in order to set up commercial and demonstration scale 2G bioethanol projects. Okay, what are the second generation? By using the non-food biomass as well as other renewable feedstocks which are there, enhancing the production of ethanol in order to meet the ethanol blending program targets. Okay, the implementing agency is what? The Center for High Technology, which this is the technical body under the Ministry of Petroleum as well as Natural Gas. Total budget outlay is around 2000 crores from the period of 2018 to the period of 2024. So there are phases of implementation, phase 1 and phase 2. Okay, so the Jeevan mission will be under two phases. The phase 1 is to support the 6 commercial and 5 demonstration projects. The next one is continuation to support the remaining projects. So these are the two phases. Now let's see the different generations. Let me zoom for you people if it is not visible. So generation 1, I told you the first generation of the biofuel is what? Derived from food crops like wheat, whether it's sugarcane, soya bean, etc., by the process of fermentation or by the process of hydrolysis, where there is breaking up of water into the H2 as well as the hydroxide. Okay, so this is what it is. Next one, this is useful for converting these food items into the biofuels, and it is responsible for food versus fuel debate. Okay, so when you're using food items for the generation of fuel, then what happens? The basic thing itself is gone, right? Because even sustainable development goal first focuses on what? No poverty, no hunger. Then only it actually comes to clean and sustainable cities, etc. So first is what? Food. So this actually sparks the food and the fuel debate. So now it is better for us to move to the second generation biofuels, which is produced from the non-food crops. Okay, where you use substances like wood, the agriculture residues, or the forestry waste, the organic waste, etc., and the biochemical and thermochemical methods are used here in order to synthesize this particular biomass. Okay, and then what happens? You actually get the liquid. So this is what is called as biomass to the biofuel, that is the wood to the liquid method. So this is what it is. Next one is generation 3. This is derived from algae and other microbes. Okay, so for this process, what are they saying? The cultivable land is actually not required. So the forest, these are the fastest growing feedstocks among all the two sources. Algae is the easiest and it is the fastest. Here also there are certain thermochemical or the biochemical methods that are used for extraction by the process of dewatering. That is, from the algae you actually remove the amount of water content and then produce this biofuel. And finally is generation 4. This is nothing but it is an extension of 1 minute. This is an extension of generation 3 biofuels, and here this algae is modified via genetic engineering. Okay, so some kind of genetic engineering and modification of the genes are made. Okay, so when that is made, oh, I'm so sorry. So when that is made, what happens? There is high yield which is there. Okay, and then there is more capacity for the capture of carbon dioxide also, but it actually requires high initial investments, but it results in the higher production rates. That is why now India is actually moving towards what? Under the PM-Jeevan mission, to resort to the second generation ethanol for this particular ethanol blending. So these are the different generations of biofuel. Now let's move to the key modifications that are made. So there is extension of this implementation period. Earlier it stopped with 2027, right? Now it has extended to 2028-29, and then there is also broadening scope. What is this? There are some eligible feedstocks. This has been expanded in order to include other kind of biofuel sources also, like the lignocelluloses materials. Okay, lignocelluloses means it's wood and basically other residues. Okay, like agriculture and forest residues. The industrial wastes are also used over here. Then synthesis gases as well as algae. And finally, there is eligibility for bolt and brownfield projects. Very important. Bolt is what? Bolt is what? It's already the existing facilities. Okay, so all here also this particular scheme is actually applicable, and also in the brown field. Okay, here the upgrade, in order to upgrade the already existing ones, the old ones. So projects that enhance the existing facilities, that is bolt on, as well as a brownfield, are now eligible. So they are trying to integrate the advanced biofuel production more efficiently. So this is what is the PM-GWIN mission. Now let's move forward. Is next one is the Ministry of Textiles. Okay. So in Ministry of Textiles, there is actually nothing much to be discussed over here. There are around a couple of schemes like the Samarth scheme, and then you have the PM Mitras, and you have the FDI through automatic route that is allowed in the textile sector. So all that we will actually complete it very quickly. Okay. So it is easy. It's not very difficult for us to understand. So let's move forward and quickly jump into the topic directly, that is PM Mitra. Okay. So Mitra is nothing but it stands for Mega Integrated Textile Region and Apparel. Okay. So under this scheme, what happens? There will be mega textile parks that will actually be established across the country. Okay. So what do you mean by the mega textile parks? This will actually hold the entire textile value chain. Okay. That is from the fiber to the fabric. Okay. So this is actually based on the 5F mission of our Prime Minister. This is nothing but from the farm, get the fiber, so farm to fiber, then fiber to what? Factory to be processed, and once it is processed in the factory, then what you have to do? Put it to fashion, and once it fashion reaches, then it has to go abroad. So foreign. So farm, fiber, factory, fashion, and foreign. So these are the 5F vision, okay, by the Prime Minister. So this is nothing but it actually helps, what to say, the parks will have. So you establish these big parks. Here you actually have the state of the art, that is a top-notch infrastructure for your textile sector, and it's like the plug and play model. That is, you need not go and establish it from the scratch. These are already developed manufacturing units. You can just go and what to say, continue the work, okay, or the production. So this is what it is. So the government has finalized 7 sites across different states, that is PM Mitra parks will be in Tamil Nadu at Virudhunagar, and then Warangal in Telangana, and then you have the Navsari in Gujarat, you have the Kalburgi in Karnataka, and you have Ghar in Madhya Pradesh, and then you have Lucknow and Hardoi in what? In Uttar Pradesh, and finally you have Amravati in Maharashtra. Okay. So all these regions where you will have the PM Mitra parks which will be set up. Okay. Now moving forward, the second mission is National Technical Textile Mission. Okay. So what are technical textiles? So these are engineering products or the textiles that have a specific function to play. Okay. So that is what is called as technical textile. So the technical textile scheme, it aims to make India a global leader in these kind of textiles. So they are manufactured using natural as well as man-made fibers. Like you have different kind of fibers like Nomex, and then you have the Kevlar, then you have spandex, Twaron, etc. And they actually have enhanced functional properties. Okay, like it will have higher tenacity, and then you need to know what is tenacity, what is flexibility. So there is excellent insulation, okay, and then there is improved thermal resistance. So all these are the exceptional and enhanced properties that the technical textiles will have. Okay, so that is why we have come up with this particular mission. The next one is what? The ATUFs, that stands for Amended Technology Upgradation Fund Scheme. Here also essential funds are given in order to upgrade the technology or machinery of the textile industry. The next one is the Samarth. This is nothing but a scheme for the capacity building in the textile sector. So this actually focuses on what? The skill development in the textile sector. And this actually excludes, very important, excludes spinning and weaving. So skill development in the textile sector is Samarth, excluding spinning and weaving. Then policy support, 100% FDI via automatic route. This means what? When I want to invest in, a textile unit over here, I can actually, if I'm a foreign investor, I will directly, that is the foreign direct investment of 100% of owning up that textile business in India can be given to me without actually getting the what to say, the permission from the government. Okay, but it has to be according to the RBI standard. So I am allowed over here. Okay, so this is what it is. And also what happens, the government has notified uniform GST rate of 12% on the man-made fabrics. Okay, man-made fabrics, yarns and apparel. So here we are done with the textile sector. The final topic of discussion will be our PM internship scheme. So this is the last topic for the day. So we'll be dealing with PM internship scheme. Okay. So here the pilot phase, that is the first phase of this particular scheme, PM internship scheme, this actually aims to offer around 1 crore youth. Okay, what? Internship in the top businesses, or in top business environment. So the pilot phase of the internship scheme offers youth exposure to real world business environment, has received around 6.2 lakh applications for around 1.27 opportunities. Okay, there was only opportunity for 1.27 lakh. Even for UPSC, okay, there are only around 700 to 1000 vacancies maximum, but how many people apply for it? 10 lakh people apply for it. So such is the competition. So you need to always be prepared. Okay, now moving forward, what is this particular scheme? So obviously this is a scheme which is launched by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, introduced when? Through the budget 2024, in order to address the unemployment rate of the youth. Okay, so this, how do you address the unemployment? By providing them the internship. So how many internships will be provided? Around 1 crore internships will be provided for the individuals in around 500 top companies in the next 5 years. So these numbers are very, very important. So this is going to give the youth a practical experience of how the real business world or the environment is functioning. The eligibility is that you must be between 21 to 24 years, and there has to be a minimum qualification of class 10, and this excludes the graduates, okay, from premier institutions like the IIMs, the IIT, Indian Institute of Technology and Management, and the professionals like the chartered accountants. Okay, then the employment status, it is not currently in full-time employment, and the income limit here is that family income, whomsoever's family income is not exceeding 8 lakh annually. Okay, and then the applicants with government employed family members, they are ineligible. They are also not eligible if your parents are, the government servants, where the income of your family exceeds 8 lakh. In both cases, you will not be eligible for this internship scheme. Okay, so training for the future, so many people, 10 million youths to get internship at, that is 1 crore youths, internships at 500 top companies in the next 5 years. Okay, and one time grant of around 6,000 will actually be provided for each intern. Now let's see the key features. Okay, as I told you, interns will get a monthly stipend of 4,500 rupee via the government, and it will be directly credited to your account. That is what is your direct benefit transfer, and 500 rupees from the companies as a part of their corporate social responsibility. Okay, do you understand? And this is actually done for a duration of 1 year, and then also a 1 year grant of rupees 6,000 will be there upon the enrollment and the insurance coverage under PM Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana and PM Suraksha Bima Yojana. We will see these are accident insurance schemes. We will discuss that. And it also provides what? The practical skills in a real business or a work environment, and offers financial support to the youth individuals, and also helps them to gain the skills, and it makes them future ready. Okay, so this is what is the article about. Now let's see two more associated schemes where we discussed over there. PM Jeevan Jyoti Yojana as well as the PM Suraksha Bima Yojana. Okay, this is actually your security, Suraksha. So accidental insurance scheme where individuals between the age of 18 to 70 years are your beneficiaries. Okay, So here, in case of accidental death or permanent total disability, your insurance is about rupees 2 lakh and rupee 1 lakh for permanent partial disability. Then the premium is 20 rupees per annum, and the objective is to provide affordable accidental insurance coverage to the economically weaker sections. Here, the Jeevan Jyoti Yojana, this is actually your life insurance scheme. Eligibility 18 to 50. Remember, for accidental coverage, it is 18 to 70, and here the life insurance scheme is 18 to 50 and provides life insurance of 2 lakh for a premium of 436 per annum. And financial support is often, it is given to the family members in case the insured person is actually, is no more due to any reason. The period is renewable every year and it is linked to the savings bank account of the individual. Okay. So with this, we are actually completing today's discussion of the most important government schemes of different ministries, ranging from the Ministry of Heavy Industries, Ministry of Petroleum, Natural Gas, Ministry of Fisheries. We recently discussed about, you know, the other ministries as well. I don't Yeah, Ministry of Textiles, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and so on. So you need to know which scheme comes under the nodal, nodal agency is what, or which ministry is the nodal agency for which scheme, who are the beneficiaries, what are the benefits that a person actually gets, what is the eligibility criteria for the beneficiary, all that you need to know. Okay. So with this, we have completed one of the most important sections which will of current affairs that might appear in your examination. So this is the government schemes. Okay. So tomorrow we'll be starting with the reports and indices, where I have divided that into two. That is, we will be discussing about the global indices and global reports, and then the Indian reports and the Indian indices. Okay. So here we've actually come to the end of this particular session. So thank you so much for watching, and for more informative sessions that are actually coming up, please do like, share and subscribe to Narayana IAS Academy YouTube channel. I will catch you up tomorrow in a